is written and directed by Andrew Dominik and stars Ana de Armas as Marilyn Monroe, is out now on Netflix. Blonde tells the fictionalized version of the life of Marilyn Monroe. From her volatile childhood as Norma Jean through her rise to stardom and romantic entanglements, this reimagined fictional portrait of Hollywood legend Marilyn Monroe blurs the lines of fact and fiction to explore the widening split between her public and private selves. I'm not a big fan of Andrew Dominik as a filmmaker. The way he comes across in a lot of interviews, I feel like he's very self-absorbed and very self-indulgent. Like, he thinks like he's the one and only. A lot of people have given praise to one of his previous films, the Jesse James movie, you know, the one with the annoyingly long title. I'm not saying it. And I thought that that movie was okay, overlong, also pretentious. Not quite as indulgent as Blonde, which was a complete misfire, other than one element, and that was Ana de Armas as Marilyn Monroe. She completely saves this movie from being an absolute burning house of a movie. Ana de Armas just continues to get better and better with each role that she takes on, and she is as electric here as she has ever been. She completely disappears as Marilyn Monroe. There was a lot of controversy surrounding her casting. A lot of people were upset at the fact that a Cuban actress was playing Marilyn Monroe. Like, who the fuck cares? I would assume that where English isn't her first language, it would be hard for somebody like that to perfect an American accent to play Marilyn Monroe, and there was so much controversy surrounding that, and honestly, I kind of feel bad for Ana de Armas. I know this is probably stretching it a little bit. They had to warble her accent in post-production to make her sound more American. To me, I don't know, but I feel like if that were me, I would feel a little bit demoralized, because I feel like that would mean, oh, hey, I didn't do as good of a job as I thought. But if Ana de Armas was okay with it, it worked. I mean, there were times where the Cuban accent came out, but you know what? It didn't bother me. They picked who they thought was best for the role, and she blew me away. As opposed to the rest of the movie, let's get back to Andrew Dominik. This man uses a lot of color shifts and aspect ratio shifts in a movie that don't need them. This movie is overlong, it is pretentious, self-indulgent, dehumanizing, disrespectful to the legend of Hollywood icon Marilyn Monroe. The fact that Dominik himself thought that it would be a great idea to present a movie about Marilyn Monroe through a fictionalized version of her life, which essentially gives him a lot of creative freedom, I feel like that's just spitting on the legacy of somebody like Marilyn Monroe. This is a man who also watched previous Marilyn Monroe movies to prepare for writing and directing this movie, and he has even stated he didn't like them, or that he didn't like her as an actress all that much. It was one or the other. And I'm like, then dude, why are you writing a Marilyn Monroe movie? And why are you making it a fictionalized version of her life? This is going to be classified as a biopic. Because of that, I would not classify it as a biopic. Everything in this movie is completely false. Like, this is how pretentious and self-indulgent Andrew Dominik gets with the camera. This is going to be a little bit of a graphic description, but you see Marilyn Monroe in the movie having an abortion, and the POV shot is her vagina. Why do I want to watch that? Did this man even think about any of that shit? I also don't need Marilyn Monroe sucking off JFK for 2 minutes, because we all know that probably did not happen. That's probably false. And I know that there was a lot of scandals with Marilyn Monroe in real life, and if it did happen, correct me in the comments, but I'm going to assume that it didn't happen. So why are we actually showing that stuff? Why don't we actually make a biopic about Marilyn Monroe, as tragic as her life was, that celebrates her life, instead of dehumanizing her and making her out to be somebody that just kind of gets around? And Andrew Dominik going from black and white to color to sepia tone, it just didn't make any narrative sense at all. Take something like American History X, which is right behind me. It is. Right here. Great ass movie. Great ass movie. Edward Norton's best performance. Why were there black and white scenes in that movie? A, it wasn't just to differentiate different times in Edward Norton's character's life. That's not the problem that I have with Blonde. The example I'm going to use here with American History X is that I felt it was necessary because it represented two different sides of Edward Norton's character in two different times. The color sides are after he gets out of prison and he realizes that he was wrong all along, whereas when he's telling his younger brother what happened while he was in prison and the stuff that he did when he was a skinhead, that's all in black and white so that we get a sense of how this character has grown and how he has changed over the course of his entire life and his jail sentence in that movie. Sure, there are black and white scenes in this movie, but nothing, that says, hey, this took place like in 1962. It's not the fact that it got lost on me from a story perspective and that I couldn't follow it. Switching between color, sepia tone, black and white just didn't have any narrative impact on me. Watching every scene in this movie, it just felt like he should have picked one and stuck with it. I would have been fine if this entire movie was in black and white. I would have been fine if this entire movie was in color. Would have been a little bit weird if this entire movie was in a sepia tone tint, but I probably could have dealt with it. And the switching aspect ratios, widescreen to full screen to letterboxed, it was weird, man. I'll just say Zack Snyder did it better with the Snyder Cut. It looked weird in that movie, but I could at least tolerate it for the 4 hours that Snyder Cut was on. It's like when Michael Bay made the Transformers sequels and he just kept switching aspect ratios every 5 seconds. There was no need for it. There's no need for it in this movie. So what did Andrew Dominik prove with this movie to me? Well, by showing that stuff, switching aspect ratios and the color grading and showing shots of Marilyn Monroe sucking off JFK for 2 minutes, just proved to me that this man knows nothing about Marilyn Monroe. He had all the creative freedom in the world, and everything that he is presenting at us visually on screen is his vision, and his vision is saying, look at me, I am the greatest filmmaker ever, the god of cinema. I don't really like talking bad about directors and filmmakers and the cast and all that, but I don't know, when you have 2 interviews where you specifically said you don't like Marilyn Monroe movies, and you are questioning why the movie is rated NC-17 for the explicit sexual content that is present in the movie, when, yeah, it should be rated NC-17. My first NC-17 movie, by the way. Don't give me this horse shit about, oh, stuff in Euphoria, or, something, and you would see in an R-rated movie is worse than, no, nothing is worse than what you see in this movie. Everything in this movie that you see is worse. Like, there's an instance where there's a line of dialogue at the beginning where Marilyn Monroe is imagining a picture that is moving, and the man in the picture says, I'm coming home to claim you. That just tells you what Andrew Dominik thinks of Marilyn Monroe. Of course, she's a pop culture icon. She was a sex symbol when she was alive, when she made movies in Hollywood, in the golden age of Hollywood. And I think her being an actual sex symbol gets mixed up in Dominik's mind with her being a sexual object of desire. And he does not know that line at all. I was looking forward to Blonde because even if it was a fictionalized tale, I was hoping we would get at least some accuracy. And there's probably some accuracy in this movie, but I was just perplexed and confused as to why somebody like Andrew Dominik would make a movie like this. If he has specifically stated in interviews and when he's questioning the actual MPAA rating, so many narratively visual things at our face that make us feel distracted by the actual movie we're watching instead of paying attention to what's happening on screen, except for when the more controversial stuff happens. I know Ana de Armas has backed him up, and I don't agree with what she said either, but I get it. She's backing up somebody who employed her in a movie. Happens. I think she's the only one that's innocent with this thing. I felt that this was super long, 2 hours and 47 minutes. Didn't have to be. Very self-indulgent and pretentious in the way it is filmed, and Dominik trying to prove to us that he's still relevant and that he's like the best filmmaker of all time. I just thought it was a disrespectful and dehumanizing way to look at Marilyn Monroe's life. Again, if you want to make a Marilyn Monroe movie, make an actual biopic and take artistic liberties where artistic liberties need to be taken. Don't create an entirely fictionalized version of her life and just say, hey, I have the creative freedom to do whatever the hell I want. It's Marilyn Monroe. She was the object of desire in my mind. To me, that's not how this movie should have worked. I don't think I'm going to give this movie a rating because I say I enjoy this movie with such and such, bucket of popcorn, half bucket of popcorn, or stale popcorn. I don't enjoy watching this movie at all. That's what I'll say. I don't know if it'll end up on the worst of the year list, but I'm not giving it a popcorn rating. I can't. I didn't enjoy it at all. So, if you have seen Blonde, I want to know what your thoughts on the movie are. Drop me some feedback in the comment section below. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.